For those of you who don't know, I unboxed my 16-inch MacBook Pro about 5 months ago, I think coming up on 6, and I have to say I love the machine, and I figured since it's 5 months have gone by, I thought I'd do a 5-month review of it, and in which I'd probably be covering some of the things that I would rather nitpick about this device or whatnot, since I really think that some of you out there might be debating whether or not to get an Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro or to wait for the Apple Silicon 16-inch MacBook Pro, which is rumored to come out sometime in 2021. And so I figured you guys might want to hear my feedback for this device, since a lot of debating is going on recently within the community of whether or not to upgrade right now. And so without further ado, here is my formal 5-month review of the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Let's get started. Alright, so around 5 months ago, I unboxed my 16-inch MacBook Pro. I created a whole video on it and everything, doing the setup, unboxing it, and it's great. So far, having it for 5 months has been really great. I enjoy using this machine a lot, and I think it's a really powerful tool for what you get. I mean, sure, my specific build was really expensive, but honestly, it's worth it in its current state, in which I have several things that I actually do love about the 16-inch MacBook Pro, in which I'll dive into right now. In number 1, the keyboard. This keyboard is probably got to be the best laptop keyboard I've ever felt. It's much better than the original scissor key mechanism back on like the original MacBook Pro, and even the older iMac keyboards. And I really enjoy typing on the Magic Keyboard. It's really clean, it's quiet, and it's smooth. And I think they did a really good job. And I absolutely love the fact that they brought back the escape key, because honestly I think the escape key is one of the most important keys, or one of the most important keys on all the on the entire keyboard, since it serves a universal function, which is basically ending a task. And yeah, I think the keyboard, I really love this keyboard, and I think Apple did a really good job with it, shifting from the butterfly mechanism to the new Magic Keyboard. Number 2 about this machine that I really love. I love that display. The 16-inch Retina display is absolutely amazing. It's wide, it's bright, it has True Tone, and the bezels are so small. I love looking at my 16-inch MacBook Pro display because it's large and the bezels are thin. It's amazing to view on, it's awesome to watch movies on YouTube and all sorts of other stuff. And I really think they did a good job with keeping the same footprint as the 15-inch MacBook Pro, but making the display slightly a bit bigger and slimming down those bezels, since I think since the 15-inch MacBook Pro came out, people were starting to complain like, alright, these bezels are getting quite big now. And I honestly would have liked those bezels a little bit smaller. And yeah, so the display, I have to say, is 10 out of 10 in my opinion. And the third thing I like about this MacBook Pro are the speakers. Oh my god, these have got to be the best sounding laptop speakers I have ever heard. They're so rich, they're so full of sound, and everything about them is just, they're such a pleasure to listen to, especially when you put on the iTunes enhancer, and it's amazing. And the speakers are the hardware and software put into the speakers on the 16-inch MacBook Pro are just, it's absolutely mind-blowing how good these speakers are. And I gotta say, I gotta give applause to Apple for making such amazing speakers in such a portable notebook like this. So, you get my applause. And the fourth thing I like about the 16-inch MacBook Pro is the newer Touch ID sensor. And, well, Apple didn't actually say that the Touch ID sensor was actually new. They actually just changed the location of it. They separated it from the actual glass of the touch bar, making it its own separate button. Kind of like how the power button was on the 15-inch MacBook Pro before the introduction of the touch bar, in which I actually like it, and it's way easier for me to feel around in the dark for where the Touch ID sensor is, instead of it being blended directly into the touch bar, and I actually do like that. And I do like the matte coating on it. It feels really nice on my fingertips. And probably the fifth thing that I like about this machine is the overall build quality. Yeah, it's a bit heavier, but you're not really going to care. With a machine like the 16-inch MacBook Pro, it's really for heavy-duty, on-the-go editing, in which portability is a key factor, but it's not the most important factor. And in which you want something that's slim, but you also want something that has a lot of power packed into it. And the 16-inch MacBook Pro has the perfect combination of that. It's slightly a bit thicker, slightly a bit heavier, but it's the perfect combination of a portable machine and a bit of oomph to it, if you know what I mean. And yeah, the overall build quality of the 16-inch MacBook Pro is solid, and I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. Alright, so those were the things that I really like about the 16-inch MacBook Pro, but there also is room for some criticism, in which I have quite a few in my opinion. And without further ado, let's get started with that. Alright, so the first thing I want to critique about the 16-inch MacBook Pro is the cooling system. Yes, I know Apple said that the cooling system was vastly improved from the previous generation 15-inch MacBook Pro, and in which I would agree that it has, but honestly, the Intel chips that they're shoving into these machines run so hot, it's barely made a difference. Yeah, that's one of the critiques about it, but another thing is that the base model 16-inch MacBook Pro runs a bit cooler than my more powerful one, in which the specific critique that I have about the higher class 16-inch MacBook Pro is that it gets really hot when you're really not doing a lot. Watching YouTube, the CPU core average is around 120, which is rather odd for just browsing YouTube and watching YouTube. And it can get rather hot. I've burned myself a little bit on this machine, and it's rather annoying sometimes. And but I have to say that regardless of the heat and stuff, the cooling system does its job. But when I'm doing something in like Source Filmmaker where I have the fans constantly going on and the processor is just staying hot, it just gets annoying. The cooling system kind of fails when it gets really, really hot, and that's a problem because the cooling system is meant to cool down the processor, right? But when super demanding tasks arise, and I specifically have max fan control installed because I want to get the best performance out of my machine, I crank the fans up to max, and it's basically just circulating air that just gets heated up from the processor, and it does not seem to be cooling down the machine at all, in which I think it's a real problem because I'm actually starting to get some headaches from listening to those fans constantly. I have to listen to this sound on a daily basis. This is like really annoying. And I'm actually editing this video right now. I've had the fans on high for a little while, and it's now at like 129 degrees Fahrenheit. Currently Final Cut Pro is just open. I had OBS open like a few seconds ago, which that made it hotter, but like I have to do this on a regular basis when editing 4K footage. It gets really annoying. And maybe if they made the 16-inch MacBook Pro just a slight bit thicker with a better heatsink and fans, like more powerful fans that reached up to maybe 7,000 RPMs instead of just 5,500, then I think that the cooling system would be a lot better. And that is one of the main critiques that I have about the machine. The second main critique that I have about the machine is the lack of USB-C ports. And I've been trying to use my machine for streaming on YouTube, and I'm eventually going to try to stream on Twitch. And in which I have my iMac, and this is specifically in macOS, I have my iMac plugged in and using target display mode with the Thunderbolt port, particularly on this, and then I have an adapter to use my EOS M50 DSLR as a webcam, which is taking up another one. Then I have the charger in one of them, which leaves one left for something like an SD card if I were importing photos or something. I would think if they gave you maybe 3 USB-C ports, it would be a lot better, since you would be able to have more productivity and expandability that way. Yeah, those are my critiques and good positive reviews of the 16-inch MacBook Pro. I really hope this helped you guys with deciding on whether to upgrade, whether not to, and whatnot. So yeah, stay tuned for more episodes in the future, and I will see you all in the next video. This is Indie Media, signing off. Bye bye!